If the world should stop revolving, spinning slowly down to die, I'd spend the end with you. Telly Savalas. If, I think it was called. Obviously total nonsense, because the world isn't revolving. So it was a very strange concept for a song, but not the strangest. But I'd just like to say that the last offering, the last video, was a short about animal logic, really. Although I didn't, it didn't come across maybe as it maybe should. But animals are very intuitive. They know when it's going to be a change in the weather, and they act accordingly. How do birds navigate when the ones that migrate? And birds, butterflies also do it. Well, they don't have a map. They don't have GPS, which stands for, of course, Ground Positioning System. Of course, they don't have anything like that. But what they do have is a device within their body for recognizing magnetism and magnetic fields. It's very rarely talked about because it's a bit of a giveaway. So when they are migrating, they navigate via their magnetic, the magnetic fields on our Earth. Swallows, the youngsters from the broods of swallows that are born in this country, migrate on their own, without their parents, back to Africa. How do they do that? Well, it goes beyond instinct. They have the ability to do that because of the magnetic fields on the plane. That is why, even if the adults showed them the way, do you think they could remember? Do you really think if you could fly, if you could flap your arms and fly, do you think you could navigate across the seas and the? I doubt it somehow. But who knows? But there's no way that if you've not been before that you could go on your own, and they do. So there you go. And animals. I'm not saying that dogs and cats migrate, but they certainly know that. Well, certainly cats know there's a change in the weather. I'm not so sure about dogs. I don't really know much about dogs. Only having dogs in the family when I was young. Never having my own dog. But we've had several dogs in the family. But still, they were just, working dogs, stroke pets. Stroke, get it? Useful, some of them were just totally stupid, but very great fun. And if they were stupid, they were never punished or treated badly because they were disruptive or they weren't nasty. They were just, you'd send them to go and get the sheep, and they would just have a great time. Instead of, they wouldn't bite the sheep or worry them or anything. They would just mess around, play, play. Sometimes an old dog who was good with the sheep would be sent out to train the younger dog, and the younger dog would just black about and not take any of it in at all. Anyway, that's going off subject a bit. It's a very bright day again today, lovely clear weather, and I really should go onto the mowers and with my camera, but I am so into what I'm doing at the moment. I've just come in for a bit of a break. I've changed my shirts because they were soaking wet. I'm actually laying a few tyres at the moment. That doesn't mean to say I've scooped all the soil out at all. No, not a bit. But you fill the tyres with soil, so I don't want to take all the soil away. That would be silly to bring it back to do that with. So I'm using the stuff that I'm going to inevitably have to dig out to fill the tyres. And again, I'm a little bit off subject here. But of course, they're worn tyres, never to be used again. They cost the garage £1 a piece for them to be taken away. So I'm doing him quite a favour by taking them. So it's everybody wins. Now, while I was out there digging, well, actually, yes, I suppose I was digging and putting the soil in the tyres and pounding them with a tamper. It's not very good for me, that, but it's a job that has to be done, and I can just take my time and do it as and when I'm able. But while, like I say, when I'm out there doing that sort of work, it frees the mind. The thoughts can go anywhere. And this morning, because the moon is in the sky, it's kind of a half moon right now, and it's around in the daytime. It's so obviously not lit by the sun. I can't see why anybody would think it was. Now, that's not to say that the side that we can see of the moon, the half moon, is closer or closest to the sun. If the half moon side is lit, the side is here, the sun's over here, but it's always down. It's never perpendicular, straight line, never as you'd expect it to be there. It's always down here. That's why it could not be lit by that sphere. But there is another great something you can look into anyway, and that is if you're on the shoreline and the ocean or the sea is in front of you, and you are looking towards the west, and the sun is setting. Doesn't necessarily have to be the west, because the sun doesn't set in the west all year round, of course, because it's either closer to us or further away, and therefore it's south or north of west. Anyway, so there is a good chance that you could do this experiment yourself. Stand on the shoreline when the sun is on the horizon or above the horizon, and you will see that the light from the sun is apparent as long as the sea is calm. The sea has to be calm. It's apparent all the way to your feet. Now, how is that possible if we're on a spinning ball? It isn't. But if you now then, you know these trampolines that children have, people have in the back gardens for the children. You'll have seen them. Now, it's best if you can get a big one. Get the biggest one you can for this experiment, and then get a well, get a child if you like, and put the child in the middle of the trampoline, and it'll be concave. But then if you get a pole and push it underneath the trampoline, and so it's convex, then that is kind of a model of the shape of the Earth, and then see what the Sun does on that, and you'll know the Sun does not shine all the way across the surface of the convex bulge on the surface of the trampoline. So how does it do it on the Earth? Well, it doesn't, obviously, because it's flat and level, as water always is. Resting water is always flat and level. And the horizon, as the name suggests, when you're looking over the sea, is absolutely flat and level. And I will prove this to you. I'm very sorry that I'm not doing it today, but I will do it. I know it's usually anywhere in this part of the world, on the northeast coast of England. It's usually quite good until January. The weather, it's quite usually clear and bright, and we get clear and bright days in January, February as well. But you can more or less be certain you do get days like this, November, December. So hopefully I will do this little experiment, all being well, meaning, you know, I don't have an accident, or the camera's still working in the car, even if the car's not working, I can walk up there. It's not far, 3 miles or so, to the highest point. Yeah, it will be about that. It's not the highest point either, because you go past the trig point. Anyway, 2 miles past the trig point and then you can see the sea, like I said, to the south of Whitby and to the north of Skelton. And if you know the coast, that is quite a considerable distance. And if I put the straight edge over the top of them all, line it up, and if the sea does not dip at the ends, you can be sure that and it won't, of course, but I'll show you, then that means that the water on our Earth is flat and level. Of course it is. I'd like to say only a fool would think otherwise, but that's a little offensive to people who are so indoctrinated and only believe it's dogma. It's very sad to see people succumb to it, not to be able to think outside the programming at all, not to consider. They say they do, but they really don't. They really don't. Otherwise, they would have left room for the other possibilities. And usually the people who are like that are not well. They're quite difficult to communicate with. Their minds certainly aren't open. They may pretend that they are. Oh yes, they may say even that they've looked into it, and they may have looked into it, but because they are in a safe, secure place, they'll send out a little bit of, it's like a big army sending out a scout, and the scout will come back and nestle up to the army, and we're all right in this, formation. Nothing can touch us. And then a great big army will come along and destroy them. And that is kind of what's going to happen to the people who still think that we live on a spinning ball. It's a nonsense. It's totally impractical and unscientific, and it's not true.